National Knowledge Network. National Knowledge Network remains as a multi-gigabit network of all the academic institutions that we have. Precisely, more than 500 educational institutes are being connected. Right. There's a backbone network. There's a backbone network in National Knowledge Network which can flow content at 10 gigabits. And from the backbone network, we have seen what is a backbone network in networking, right? From which the major branches of network are being created, right? So it creates a backbone network which helps in connectivity all across India. Then from the backbone network, there are sub connections which are being created, sub nodes are being created, and from the sub nodes there are edges of connections which are being created that helps to connect each institute or each academic or the research based institute with a fast internet, or we can say with a fast network also. That network can flow data at 1 gigabit per second, right? So it remains as one of the tool which can help in establishing establishing a fast network or fast network based connectivity between the academic institutes in the country. So NKN is the multi-gigabit capability network which is aimed to connect all the universities, research institutes, libraries, laboratories, healthcare and agricultural institutes across the country, right? All those which are related to any form of the knowledge which is being created. The basic role of National Knowledge Network, if we understand, then it helps in establishing a high-speed backbone connectivity for all the educational institute, enable collective research and development and innovations, right? That could also be one aspect. Facilitating advanced distance education also is also one aspect of or role of National Knowledge Network. Facilitating an ultra high speed e-governance backbone also, because the policies relative to educational delivery or the digital education also would be the role of e-governance. That can also be established with the help of National Knowledge Network. And facilitating the connection between different sectoral networks in the field of research. So research, education, collective e-governance, high-speed backbone network, all of this is the basic role that the National Knowledge Network plays. When we look up to the major features of National Knowledge Network, the National Knowledge Network helps to connect the educational institutes, then the research labs, the national internet exchange points are also being connected over here. NIXI, that we can say, are also connected, which helps to generate the multiple connections from the backbone network itself. Connections to global network is also being established from NKN. NKN can act as a mediatory, and then over here we can have the Indian institutes, and then we can have the global institutes, the global research labs. Using this, an interconnectivity can be created for the global institutes also. It helps as the national or the state data center and networks can also be created, right? It helps to create a state and the national data center for knowledge or data center for academic institutes also, right? Broadband cloud connectivity can also be created with the help of National Knowledge Network. Then multiple cloud systems can also be created. Multi-point lateral connectivities of cloud system can be created. It also helps to create connect the satellite systems or the satellite based data. EduSat is one of the first satellite for education dedicated for distance education in India, and the connections can be created for that also. And then it helps to connect the cyber emergency response task force also, the team in India, which helps to create the security of it. So security, connection of educational institutes, research labs, the internet exchange points, global internet giants or the global research collaborations can be created, data centers, cloud-based connectivity, etc. are some of the important key features which are being provided by NKN. We can look up to. Then it helps in establishing connectivity for knowledge and information sharing, enables collective research in engineering, emerging areas such as climate modeling, etc. Facilitate distance education in specialization fields such as medicine, emerging high-tech areas covering information, bio-nanotechnology. Connectivity of all this, multiple collective research or intradisciplinary researches can also be created over here with the help of National Knowledge Network, or it will help to facilitate the platform for interdisciplinary researches also. Facilitating an ultra high speed e-governance backbone, etc. All of this, these are the major features which are being provided with the help of National Knowledge Network, right? The technical advantages of National Knowledge Network is It helps to carry a multi-protocol traffic, right? Multi-protocol traffic would mean multiple different types of connectivity, one for message, one for instant message, one for secure connectivity, one for different type of the data. So multiple protocols can go through, not only the internet protocol suite, but also different other protocols can go through, or the standards of connectivity can go through this particular network usually. So it acts as a high speed network, right? Or there is no delay owing to not having a support to a particular protocol of communication. All different protocols of communication, they can be connected easily, and it can help to flow the information at a faster rate, right? It offers hierarchical quality of service for real-time traffic, voice and video. Different hierarchies are being created, 10 Gbps in the backbone, then at the connectivity distribution points, then at the edges of the network, right? So traffic management is far more easy. So the overall flow of voice, data, multimedia, etc. can be faster. So the real-time connectivity can be established easily. It guaranteed bandwidth for business and critical application. Of course, when it can flow data at 1 Gbps and backbone remains at 10 Gbps. So quality of service, multiple users can be hosted all at a time, and all of them can be provided, or a dedicated quality of service would be provided. If said, then it will give 10 Mbps to a user which is hosted over a particular edge, then it would be constant. There would not be any loss of signal. Supports Internet Protocol version 4 transport also. That helps to connect not only the LAN points but also the devices. Right. Service provisioning is internal to the NKN service, does not depend on the telecom service operators, right? Usually telecom service operators, they manipulate with the overall network establishment or the network utility, while in case of National Knowledge Network, the network service provider has no role or is not the intermediary over here. Provide the central service such as multimedia conferencing, e-access, digital library and central data center, etc. are the services which can be provided, right? Central service such as multimedia conferencing, video conferencing, etc., or even web conferencing, e-access, access to different types of the resources, journals, digital library, etc. can also be hosted over here, and central data centers, they can all be hosted over the National Knowledge Network. And access to secure data centers with information assurance is also being provided. This means that the security of the information over the network remains constant or at high priority, and it can be maintained also constantly. If you look up to the basic infrastructural institutional development of National Knowledge Network, then National Knowledge Network is being established. The policy part of it, then at the topmost hierarchy we have the high level committee for the establishment of National Knowledge Network, under which the executive committees work, which can operate at the state level, and then we can have technical advisory committees. These are the task forces to advise and to implement the National Knowledge Network. Then security advisory committees also, which helps to maintain the security of the network. And then model project evaluation committees, etc. are being created for different model projects which are being created based on the connectivity which can be provided through National Knowledge Network. Right. At the implementation end, if you look up to then the Department of Electronics and Information Technology is the basic implementer of this particular overall National Knowledge Network. It has been established and implemented by National Informatics Center, and actually is being looked upon by National Information Center Service Incorporation, a kind of we can say a separate body which is being created for the establishment and management of the National Knowledge Network itself. Right, which is National Informatics Center Services Incorporation under the National Informatics Center itself. Right, so it has been freely held and freely operated also without interferences or the policy interferences, or we can say backdrops which are being created, or the governmental backdrops which are being created. So that remains as the organizational structure of National Knowledge Network. Now if we look up to the basic architecture of National Knowledge Network, then the architecture is divided into three parts. The level 1 is the ultra high speed core. This is the core of the National Knowledge Network, right, which flows data at 100 Gbps. This is the backbone, in fact. The core is the backbone part of the network, right. Second is the distribution, which is connected to the core, right. This distribution can be which can create multiple wide area networks connected to the core itself. Right. Third one is the edge, where the speeds of 1 Gbps or higher can be achieved. Edges, these are the level 3 distribution, where the actual institutes are being held over this, right? The major institutes or the major facilities or the major content givers, right, which relay the content, they are being held, or the universities, they can be held over the core, right, and the institutes can also be held over the edges. This can also be a connectivity which is being created between university and colleges, or those institutes which are the major hubs of content relay, they are also connected over the core. Those which are at the receiving end, they are being connected over the edges. In this way, the establishment is being created over here, right? Depending upon the type of connectivity required by the user, organization, geographical presence and the location of point of presence of NKN connectivity would be provided. What you require, in which way we require, the point-to-point connectivity can be provided, or there is a flexibility of connectivity. What type of connectivity you require, whether you are a content giver, whether you are the one which will host the connectivity, which will host a large number of services over the NKN, then you would be at the core. You would be, if the organization at the receiving end, then you would be at the edges. It is not so that the organizations which are at the edges cannot put in content over NKN or cannot upload content using NKN. They can upload and download, but the priority would be given for those which are the constant hubs of content creation, right? NKN backbone will be typically will have 18 core point-to-point connections and around 25 distribution point-to-point connections also. Now, depending upon which way the institute is present, like for example, engineering colleges in a particular area, right? There are say 5 engineering colleges, all of them they need to connect together. Then they can be connected to a distributor's edge also, to the level 3, where engineering college number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they can all be held over the level 3 and they are all interconnected. That's how the interconnection of the colleges can also be placed, right? Now, these engineering colleges, they are connected all together. Now they need to connect to AICTE. Then AICTE connection would be at the core, which can be connected. But AICTE also has to connect with UGC, though we do not have now, or it has to connect to DST, Department of Science and Technology, right? Then this connectivity would be at the core, depending upon what is the priority of connection which is being created, or what type of connection a particular user opts into, that can also be created. So there is a flexibility of connectivity in National Knowledge Network. National Knowledge Network backbone are created by multiple bandwidth providers, and the edges can be provided by any service provider also, right? At the end, directly services are being provided, service provider or an intermediate can be brought into over here. Right. That's how the architecture is being created. The major services which are being provided by National Knowledge Network are the cloud-based services, where National Knowledge Network user have their own directory services which are located on National Knowledge Network based cloud services. Right. They can have their own directories relative to a type of content which is being stored. Right. They can have their own, we simply understand, they can have their own folders under which the content is being held. Every user which is placed on NKN, they can have their own folder, so they can have their own directories, or they can have their own designated path where the storage can be created. So it can help to create storage as a service over the cloud, or software as a service. NKN has created the infrastructure, it provides software as a service to a particular college. This is your directory, you can store the content over here, which can be accessed either by the students of your area or wherever you want to utilize it. So National Knowledge Network based cloud can help to provide software as a service, and it can also help to provide platform as a service also to a larger organization, right? The National Knowledge Network Big Emulator is a cloud-based multi-tenant storage service which is being provided, which provides configurable amount of storage to the NKN members, right? This is also the software as a service which is being provided, so as to provide large-scale cloud-based storage. Then application services are being provided, where open source internet protocol registration can be created. Desktop-based video conferencing can be created as a service through the National Knowledge Network, and SMS gateway service can also be created using National Knowledge Network. Then there are multiple community services which are also being provided, like the countrywide virtual classroom, holding virtual classroom from one organization in the core network to the organization in the distributed network, relay of the classroom, real-time relay of the classroom. Since the network is so fast or the bit rate is very high over the network, this can help to create a virtual classroom countrywide. Right. Collaboration research can also be created. Grid computing is established. Traditional grid computing can be held over the national knowledge network, grid computing between the institutes or grid computing amongst different institutes for collaborative research or collaborative academics also, right. Virtual library can also be created over this, digital libraries and virtual libraries over the national knowledge network, and sharing of the computing resources can be created with the help of national knowledge network. Next, there are multiple developments which are being created with the help of national knowledge network. Like for example, there is one development which is called as Collab CAD. This is a CAD is the computer aided design, right. So this is a computer aided design tool which can be held over the national knowledge network for industrial design and researches, right. It helps in collaborative design and development of the industrial design. So for the engineering researches this can be used. Then similarly we have the Collab DDS, Collaborative Digital Diagnostic System, which is a network enabled medical diagnostic and education in skeletal imaging using X-ray, right. We can generate a kind of educational content using different X-rays from different patients, and then that can be held over the collaborative digital diagnostic system. So different case studies can be taken up using the X-ray films, right. Then the grid computing GYDE, which is an initiative of collaboration of the scientific, engineering and academic communities to carry out research or experiment. National Knowledge Network connects the resource of GYDE grid with the bandwidth of 1 Gbps. So grid-based computing can be established with the help of National Knowledge Network. We have seen in community service, this is the example of it. Then National Knowledge Network currently connects the tier 2 centers, namely VECC, which is Variable Energy Cyclotron Center of Calcutta, and TFIR, which is Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, Mumbai, with the Large Hadron Collider based organization. This is one of the largest experiment in the current time, Large Hadron Collider, which is established by CERN of France. Right, this is one of the important experiment because this has this is a particle collider, in fact, right, where the new type of the researches have been identified relative to the origin of the universe, the type of particles which are present in the universe, and all these two facilities, they are directly connected to Large Hadron Collider. So local and the global institute based collaboration research or collaborations or exchange of the ideas can be established with the help of National Knowledge Network. This is the example of it. Then the remote physics experiment as the at the experimental synchrotron research facility of the Grenoble, France, can be held over the National Knowledge Network, which helps to create a virtual lab. Virtual lab is a simulation, a laboratory based simulation where realistic things can be seen, can be displayed over the virtual platforms. That becomes the remote access of the any kind of the experimental facility which is being created. Then that can be held also, and that can be easily accessed over the National Knowledge Network, right. Then eFoundry, which is an online resource for the metal casting design and simulation, that is also held over National Knowledge Network. Then National Knowledge Network also helps to create network services, where it helps to provide network management, email, messaging gateways, then web hosting, voice over internet protocol, VoIP, multi-point connectivity, control unit services, video portals are being provided, then video streaming, virtual private network, etc. are being provided, and then bandwidth monitoring system, etc. Also the domain name services are also being provided over the National Knowledge Network, which is the network based service being provided by the National Knowledge Network. Then there is one more initiative which has been recently taken, the Open Source Drug Discovery Initiative of CSIR. Open Source Drug Discovery, OSDD, which is an initiative of CSIR, is a novel platform for computational and experimental technologies of drug discovery, which is being held over NKN. Basically, it helps to connect the this particular platform with various drug discovery institutes in India, like for example the one which we have in Chandigarh, IMTech, then various of them are there in Delhi, IGIB or ICGEB is there. Then other are there in Lucknow. Some of them are in Pune. So these institutes, they can remain connected. So the drug discovery based platform can be made, and collaborative research in drug discovery can be made in India with the help of this, which is the basic utility of the national knowledge network, right? That's how the collaborative research can also be generated. Now based on this, the network and its utility can be understood. How national knowledge network is important, how it is utilizable, we have seen it can help in distance education, distance learning, collaborative learning can be created, participation between the national institutes and the global institutes can be created. That's why the national knowledge network is so important. Next, if we look up to then the